This is Pro Series Off Topic.
How long you been doing this?
Pro Series was... My first one was in 2020, but it wasn't a podcast, and it was IGTV. Do you remember when Instagram had TV shows? I just released it that way, so the whole entire podcast went on Instagram.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then 2022 is when it was actually like a podcast. But when I released it as a podcast, I already had like 50 episodes. Because I was releasing on Instagram.
Do you watch other podcasts to try and improve yours?
Yes.
Whose do you watch?
I watch a lot of Barstool.
Okay.
And then I watch a lot of country music podcasts. I used to watch like design podcasts and entrepreneur podcasts, but I felt like I couldn't escape from like what I'm doing. So like it was just, I was getting run dry with my own and kind of couldn't figure out what to do. So I take breaks for that, but country music and Barstool I always watch.
Fair enough.
Do you?
Oh, I watch them all the time.
Really?
Like when I'm working, that's all I have on in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watch Diary of the CEO quite a lot. I mean, every one that comes out.
Listening to that.
Yeah, it's a really good one. I mean, it's pretty much like, it's the fastest growing podcast. I think they've got 7 million followers, and they've gone from like 0 to 7 in like 3 years.
Dang.
Yeah, he basically, it's an English lad, entrepreneur, has his own businesses, whatnot. Do you know Shark Tank? Yeah, he's on the equivalent for England. So we actually started Shark Tank. It's called Dragon's Den.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we started, it was Dragon's Den, and then you guys did a spin-off, which is Shark Tank.
That's happened a lot.
Yeah.
Office.
Yeah. They're not
There's
related though, like they have they're different.
Do they?
Yeah, but it's just like the concept. Yeah, so he's on the panel for that, and he basically just gets CEOs of all these big companies, or founders, CEOs, that kind of world. Just gets them on. So like he has like all sorts of people. So like he had he's had Netflix CEO, like all the big ones, Google.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That would be a dream.
Mr. Beast, he did that one like last week. That was really, really good.
That would be really good. Okay, welcome back to Pro Series Off Topic, episode 102. Changing it up a little bit, we have a guest host for a little bit. Harrison, he's been on. I should have looked up the number. What Pro Series? I'll put in the caption of when you were on last and we talked about your business, but thought it would be a kind of a cool concept to be on the off topic for a couple months or so and just kind of shoot some stuff.
Chop it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for taking the time. We live pretty close, so it was pretty easy concept to make up. So I kind of want to start, and you sent over these questions, but I want to talk about the difference between America and UK and, where you came from and networking and stuff. And I want to start off with like your vision of America growing up and businesses in America and hearing about the American dream. What were you told, and like what did you think of with growing up hearing that?
Yeah, well, when I grew up, the only kind of thing I heard of America was the shootings that had been happening over here.
Bad stuff.
We don't really have, we don't have guns in England. So I'd only really heard of that, and then when I was younger, I only knew of Disney World, Florida.
Oh, okay.
So that was kind of my knowledge before I came. I think there's some stereotypes of Americans being obnoxious and loud and in your face, and I think that there's truth to that, but there's also like you get them people everywhere.
Yeah.
In regards to the American dream, I never really knew anything about it prior to moving. I heard about it in my freshman year, and I didn't kind of know what it entails. But when it comes to the American dream, it is more real than I ever thought. They call it the land of opportunity for a reason, and I think that like my mind just expands every new place I go.
Mm-hmm.
I get exposed to a different level of wealth. I started in Ohio, and I met a friend's dad who like owned his own house and another, and that was the first. I know it sounds crazy, but that was the first time I'd ever known of anybody who was like an owner.
Yeah,
had owned anything.
You don't own houses over there?
I mean, we do, but like I'm from a very middle class area in England.
Okay.
So like my mum and dad, we own our house outright. We don't owe any money on it, mortgage free, and that is a huge accomplishment from where I'm from. But I don't live in like a London. I live in a very small town up north. So like, I didn't know anyone that owned real estate or anything like that. So when I met this person, I was like, wow, you own another house? And that was kind of the first thing. And then next I moved on to meeting somebody who owned like 40 different Jimmy John franchises. I was like, you own 40 of these? This place that I go every single day to get a sandwich, because we got like dollars with your meal plan at school. So we could go and use it at Jimmy John's, and I would be going to his Jimmy John's basically. And I was like, that's insane. Then I moved to North Carolina and I started working for a company, and I was making a lot of money. And then I was thinking it was a pyramid scheme. So the people above me were making a lot of money. I was like, how much is this guy making? And the CEO of the company, I've developed a really, really good relationship with him. And I went to his house, and it was just like this massive mansion in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I was like, this is just insane. And then I went to Florida. I mean, you know, Florida, the amount of money that's there. It was like, I was living in a luxury apartment. I was surrounded by like people who like owned multi-million-dollar businesses, would drive Corvettes and all these fancy cars. And yeah, then I've come here, and I think that here it's pretty blue collar.
Yeah,
but
definitely is.
There's a lot of opportunity. And I think I've seen that firsthand in the fact that like been on the TV, radio, podcasts, etc. I didn't get that in Florida.
Yeah. So
when it comes to the land of opportunity, American dream, it's very real.
There's pockets of it that are very wealthy, and you'd probably get the glimpses of like the high end areas you have in Florida, like if you go to Swickley or places like that. But so what is the main difference between home and here, and why does America make it more opportunities to grow in your business and stuff that you didn't have at home?
I think that the mindset around business is very, very different. I think that in America, it's difficult because in America, it's very dog-eat-dog world. Winners and losers. It's like people have to lose for others to win. I do feel that, but then I also feel that there's a huge supportive entrepreneurial community at the same time. So like whenever I told people that I was starting my business in America, there was like, how can I help? Who can I connect you with? In England, business is viewed as a bad thing. Rich people are evil. Rich people are bad.
Oh.
Greedy. They think they're better than everyone else. So like even when I started posting content, people in England were like, who does this guy think he is? Like before I got followers or anything, it's like, who does this guy think he is doing something that's different to what we do as a culture? It's like the mindset around business is so different. It's like people don't want to see each other win in England, and then over here it's the opposite. Like, yeah, whenever I've told anybody about the stuff I've got going on, including yourself, everyone's like super intrigued and like proud.
Yeah.
Almost, you know, like even though they've got no reason to be proud of me because we're not related, we've, you know, not got a really close relationship, they're like, yeah, like that's sick. Do you know what I mean?
I think if someone else sees something of themselves in you, they want to help that because they're seeing their past self, or they see someone that they currently are and they're trying to build. Like we were just talking off camera, but like why people our age don't want to talk about business and they just want to, you know, go watch a sport or go out drinking, and we're like, that's not fulfilling like your future, your success. And like, it's just an odd thing that no one's really talking about.
Yeah. The most interesting thing is when I meet other people that are immigrants from different countries in America, that community is the strongest community I've ever been a part of, because like we all know the best of both worlds in regards to being homesick and being away from home and having to do all these things by yourself. And then we also, you know, have experienced, we're kind of running away from what we've had so far.
Yeah.
You know, I talk about being in England, like being frowned upon because I'm trying something new. All of us have experienced a similar thing. So like whenever I've met anybody who's an entrepreneur that is from a different country in America, the support I get from them people is like astronomical.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people here in the States that struggle with whatever they grew up with. They think that is their life sentence. So like if they grew up poor, they're going to grow and be poor for the rest of their life. Is that kind of like the mindset over in? Okay.
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
You've hit the nail on the head. I didn't really think about it like that, but yeah, I think that people just accept their environment as permanent.
Yeah.
And, you know, we spoke a little bit off camera about like my next place and, you know, traveling plans and all these things, like, I believe that luck can be like curated. It can be created almost. You know, you create your own luck. So, and the way you do that is by having the biggest surface area. That's by moving to the most places, meeting the most people, you know, saying yes to as many opportunities as you can. Like, and that's what's done me very, very well. I've got a good gig here in Pittsburgh. You know, like social media wise, it's going well. I've got no reason to leave, but I love experiencing new places, starting again, building my own network. Like, I was saying to somebody the other day that I can confidently say like 75% of the states, so let's say like 35, 40 states, I probably could hit somebody up and be like, can I stay on your couch?
That's cool.
There's no reason for me to do that, but like, to the fact I have a good enough connection for somebody to invite me into their home in 35 out of the 40 states, considering I came over here and knew nobody, is pretty impressive, I think.
And that's all because of social media?
Social media, traveling as well. I've been to 27 states so far. Probably it's going to be 29 very soon. But I would say traveling's a big part. And like, when I do travel, I go in with a mindset to meet as many people as possible, shake as many hands, get as many numbers. Like, not that it's all about business for me, but like, I do think that human connection is the root for everything.
Oh yeah.
And I think that even if I've had it where I've got somebody's number in my freshman year and I've only just like either benefited them or they've benefited me 4, 5, 6, 7 years later down the line. So like, you truly never know. And this, I'm sure you've experienced so many times where like, you've probably got someone's number, never thinking you're going to speak again, and then they move to your city and you end up being really good friends or something along them lines. Yeah. So, yeah.
So networking, obviously you do it both in person and on social media. Is that the same case over at home? Like, can you grow because of that? Like going through, you know, putting posts out, or are people doing podcasts like this? Is there collaboration and all that stuff going on? It's
hard for me to say because I've not experienced my adulthood in England. Oh, okay. But what I do know is that like the influencer scene in England, there isn't many because of how frowned upon it is in the culture. All the influencers in England, like, you'll get somebody who's posting about the most two random polarized industries. Like, one will be like a news article and the other will be like TikTok dances, for example. And then they'll find themselves in the same kind of network because there isn't many of them. So they just gravitate toward each other. And I think that's strong. Like, there is a group that I can think of that were all like individual TikTokers, and then they've all kind of joined forces and now they all make content together. Yeah, there's not many content creators and networking opportunities. So like, when there is them, I think they jump on them.
Yeah. What year did you come over to the States?
2018.
Okay, so you saw like the big boom of creator houses and TikTok houses. What was your what did you think of that?
Yeah, I hated it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't really like it. I like the concept, but how TikTok started in regards to thirst traps and TikTok dances and stuff like, I so desperately wanted to just post videos, but because of how TikTok was when it started, like, there was just no way that I could get involved in that. And that's what TikTok was. It was, you know, you think of the Charlie D'Amelios and like all them people who like basically started TikTok. It was all dances. It was all like Vine. Do you remember that? Yep. It was like that type stuff, just like with a tweak. And like anybody who was doing anything different was like, yeah, like algorithm was not going to benefit you.
Yeah.
But you've seen it transition to now more authentic content.
Yeah.
You know, which is good because I think that one thing social media has brought is this like fake facade of what people live. And then I think the wave of people who are very authentic and are very honest and just speak the mind, whether it's controversial or not. There's definitely things that I've said that have been controversial. Yeah. I made a video about 2 weeks ago saying that, I mean, I'm not politics at all, but I basically made a video saying how nice it is for America to have somebody who cares about Americans. That's ironic coming from somebody who's not American, right? So, you know, I do think that every country should put their own citizens first while having a beneficial immigration system. I came through legally. It was very, very difficult, so I know how difficult it is. So it was controversial for me to like almost like join forces with Americans, being like, illegal immigration is really, really bad.
Yeah.
Because I've experienced it, but we don't have our prime minister in England is not. He doesn't put us first. So
That's interesting to hear.
yeah, like illegal immigrants get more benefits than citizens.
Yeah. When you came over and you came from school and you started did you do it after school or
What?
become a citizen or start to become a citizen?
I'm not a citizen yet. I'll be a citizen by the end of this year. So
Okay.
the visa process usually takes 10 years. I would have done it in 8. But none of these things are guaranteed.
Yeah.
I'm just on track.
Is it worth it, you think?
I mean, I've not experienced being a citizen. I mean, the only difference between me and you right now is that you can vote.
Yeah, that's really, yeah.
That's literally the only thing. So, like, everything else, we're equal
Yeah.
in that regard. But, I mean, I think that it makes my life a lot easier being a citizen than not.
Yeah. Do you ever go back home?
I've not been back in 2 and a bit years.
Okay.
I'd like to go back this year, but it's just so difficult because my life moves very, very fast.
Yeah.
And I'm planning to move to my next state soon, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
When you go and think about moving to a next state, does that scare you at all?
Yeah,
No?
it excites me.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah, I wish that I could do. I mean, I can do this, but like, it's more than just what I want. So I would like to do a month literally in every state.
Oh,
But yeah, I think
that would be insane.
I just stay as long as it makes sense. So like, I came to Pittsburgh only thinking I was going to be here 1 month, and it'll be 9 or 10 months probably by the time I leave.
That's cool. During COVID, there was this company that came out and they started buying up like old hotels that were going out of business because of COVID, and they were adapting to a lifestyle like that. Like people were moving all over because everybody was working remote, and you could just pop in and pop out of these hotels all around the state, and people were like living in every state during COVID. And I want to look back that up and see if that's still a thing. But I thought that was a cool concept for like someone like you.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a little bit more longer term than that. You're trying to stay for a full year, right?
The next move will probably be either 12 or 18 months, and that'll be the last lease I sign.
Yeah.
And then it will be traveling, and then it will be buying real estate.
Okay.
That's kind of the plan, but the plan before this plan was that I was going to buy a house in St. Petersburg this year, Florida, which is where I just moved from. And I also thought that, like, I loved St. Pete, the best place in America so far for me, especially to live. But the version of me in St. Pete and the version of me in Pittsburgh is so different, even though they've only just happened. Like, yeah, it's just insane. Like, I think back to my group of friends in St. Pete, all amazing people, like really good hearts and whatnot. But the culture in Florida is very fast life. So some of them were like in their 30s drinking all the time, and like, I don't drink. We spoke about this a little bit. Like, I just want to keep growing and improving, and that's kind of what I think about when I move to my next place. So
yeah. While you're visiting, are you taking note of where you want to like plant your roots down once you are done?
Well, I thought that I would be planting my roots in Pittsburgh because my girlfriend, her work has a branch in Wexford.
Okay.
But they're moving. So
the company's moving.
Yeah. So
okay.
like Pittsburgh chapter is probably going to close.
It's insane you've been here for so long, but you haven't seen Pittsburgh at its like peak yet.
Yeah, I'm about to.
You are about to, but it's just crazy you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. I mean, I came at the worst time with it being winter.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for summer. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what's going on.
Were you ever able to go to the Steeler game?
Yeah, I've been to the Steelers. I met the head coach. I was on the.
Oh yes, I do remember that. Yeah,
the field and whatnot.
But you haven't been to a Pirate game yet, right?
No baseball and no football. My football.
Oh,
Riverhounds.
I don't think I've ever been to a Riverhounds.
Yeah,
soccer is huge here.
Soccer is growing.
It is definitely growing. Yes,
and especially with the World Cup, like the college soccer industry is gonna boom. The quality of college soccer is going up a lot. They've now introduced roster caps, which basically means Division 1 schools can opt in or opt out of having a 28-man roster. The benefit is they have more scholarship per person. The drawback is they have less players to deal with. They have a smaller sized roster. but a lot of schools are opting for that, which means there's a lot of Division 1 caliber players that are then dropping down to Division 2. Division 2 players that were good enough to play D2 that are now playing D3, NAIA, JUCO. And JUCO is even a whole different ball game as well, because they've introduced a rule where you can do 2 years at JUCO, then go on to a 4-year school and have another 4 years, 6 years in total. So like the college soccer scene is changing so much right now. And yeah, it's going to boom very, very fast. So like for me, when I went through the process to begin with, I got 2 offers. And then when I went through it again to transfer, I got 56. Results like that are going to be very, very difficult, because right now the power dynamic in regards to coaches and players is heavily in the coaches' favor, but it's shifting to the players. Like the supply to demand is shifting. Right now there's not enough not enough demand for the supply. So like it's easy to get recruited in that regard. But as more people get on this college soccer wave because of the World Cup and all these different things, it's going to shift, which means there's too much demand for the supply, making it more competitive.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. It's funny because soccer, it's always been in our lives. It just professionally, it has never been like a top tier sport here in the States. But I mean, it has. I mean, I think the Riverhounds are expanding their stadium. I think more and more people go to it. But going back to like your childhood, when you started playing sports, we have a issue here in, I don't know who started this or why it's a thing, but like when you're little, it's easy to play multiple sports. So like I played soccer, I played baseball, I played football, basketball. But as you get into like middle school age, you got to decide on one thing, because they're starting year-round training and it's like impossible to play more than one sport. Is that the same thing back home?
No, it was just soccer for me.
Oh, okay.
So the big sports in England are cricket, rugby, soccer. Not in that order. Probably goes soccer, rugby, cricket.
Okay.
But how it is in England is you choose one. And if you become good at that, you stick with it. So for me, since the age of 3, it was literally only soccer. Yeah, I'd never played cricket, never played rugby.
I guess that's just here in the States that we just want to do everything until we figure it out.
I don't know. I wish I kind of grew up in the high school system over here, because I feel like I would have been very good at American football. Like,
oh yeah,
I think I would have been really good, because I'm a bit of an athlete, or at least I used to be. I think I'm probably out of touch now, but I would have loved to try that sport. And I think if I had a decision between American football and soccer, that would have been a difficult decision.
Oh really?
Yeah, because I the idea of me being a QB and everything that entails in regards to like the pressure, the leadership, all these different things like that, I thrive in that position, and we don't have that in soccer. It is very a team aspect. Yeah. It is a team aspect in American football, but if you don't have a good QB, you're done.
Yeah.
Regardless of how good everyone else is. Whereas soccer, like if you don't have a good striker, even though striker scores your goals, like you can still have wingers and midfielders that chip in with goals as well. So soccer is more of an all-around team sport. American football is more like QB, star players, and you can fill in the blanks.
Yeah. And that's one of those, both of the sports are during the same season. So it was like really hard. We did have people in high school that they would leave soccer practice to come to football practice, but they were the kicker. So they didn't have to be there for the whole entire practice. But that was a very common thing. Like the kicker, and we had even kickers that played soccer their whole entire career, and they actually went to college for football.
Oh, really?
To be a kicker. Yeah,
I think that could have been an option as well. I actually thought about it when I was transferring from my first school to my second school. The kicker at my first school is now the kicker at Ohio State.
Oh wow!
So I used to like train with him in regards to like we were friends, so we would go to the field together. And he comes from a soccer background, like you just said, most kickers do. And I was actually quite good at kicking. And I thought about it. I was like, could I get recruited to be a kicker? And he said that he thinks I could. But I didn't really follow it through. But I thought about it. I thought about like how cool that transition would have been. That would have made my story really, really cool.
Yeah.
If I like did 2 years, well, it would have been 3 years at my first school, then done a year as a kicker, and then if I went to the NFL, I'd have been sick.
Yeah, absolutely.
I make a joke like whenever the Steelers comment on my stuff, like, Nodge, if you need a new kicker, but I think their kicker's really good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, if you came back probably like 5 or 6 years ago, you would have been Okay,
in with the running.
Yeah, you could have came in. Going into like building your career here in the States, you saying it's a lot easier than it would be at home. Is there any challenges that you see that you're trying to overcome because there's maybe their cultural boundary there that you're not understanding, or you're just trying to hurdle over it and you just have struggled?
I wouldn't have started a business if I was still in England.
Okay. What would you have done?
I have no idea. I mean, I was working in a fish factory before I moved to America.
Really? Just like taking the guts out, chopping
No,
the heads
I was
off?
like, it was all boxed up by the time it got to me. I wasn't like dealing with wet fish or anything like that, but like I come from a small town that is by the seaside, so we're a big fishing port. So we have quite a lot of fish factories, and I work basically just stacking boxes. It was boxed of fish, but then it was ready to go to the supermarkets. That was kind of my job. I was basically playing semi-professional and working at a fish factory was my life prior to America. And if I stayed in England, I don't know, maybe I would have gone to university and got a degree that I probably wouldn't have used, and probably...
Is that not something that they talk to you in school about? Like they pressure you to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life?
Well, I think that like there's a big wave in England right now where a lot of people are becoming teetotal, meaning they don't drink, because England is such a big drinking culture, and England's more expensive than America. So I was having this conversation with someone yesterday, like the rent I was paying in Florida, I was paying $4,200, which is really expensive. And what I got for that was a pool, palm trees, luxury apartment. It was a 2-bed. Yeah, it was really nice. Of course, expensive, but in England, the equivalent of $4,200 is like £3,400, and an apartment with that price is the equivalent of like a New York apartment in regards to like the size,
like
and quality.
Studio, it's very small.
New York, I have no idea why people move there.
No, I have no idea. I've never been there, and I don't really have.
I've been, and I didn't really like Manhattan, but I know New York as a state is obviously more than that. But for people that move to New York to live in a ridiculously small apartment, like the size of this room, and pay $3,500 or whatever, probably more in New York, but yeah, it's just insane. It's what you get for your money, and I think in England it's more expensive. Like people think that Florida is expensive in comparison to places like Pittsburgh. This is like living for free, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it is voted one of the most affordable places in the U.S. to live.
Yeah, I think it was like the most affordable big city.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into Country Music Weekly. It's just going to be me talking about this as usual. Let's get into new music of the week. Big week this week. First up, Miranda Lambert came out with a vaulted version of a song that she has not released from her very first album. It's the 20th anniversary of her album Kerosene, and the song's called I Don't Love Her Here Anymore. It's decent. It's kind of strange when these type of albums come out because she moved music labels from where this album came out. She's with UMG, Universal Music Group now. She was with Sony. So it's weird when these songs come out because it's obviously going to Sony because it was recorded. It's in the vault at Sony, and like she kind of promoted it and kind of did some stuff on social media about it. But I have a feeling like I wonder how like payment goes and all that stuff goes with that. But decent song. Go check that out. Next up, Logan Crosby. I talked about him many times on this podcast. Came off a new single called 17. Decent. It's not my favorite from him. He has a lot more you could go check out. But it looks like he's having more music come out. My song of the week, or you'd call EP of the week, would be Brett Eldridge, Lone Star Lovers. Coming off with that first single, he has Gorgeous. It's a completely new sound from him. Overall, it's 5 songs. I love it. I'm a huge Brett Eldridge fan. He has probably one of the most underrated voices in country music. Just such a classic, and you mean he's amazing at Christmas music too. So what is there not to like about him? So great EP. Go check that one out. Blake Shelton came out with a new song called Let Him In Anyway. It's decent, but I think it was more for the announcement of his new album called For Recreation Use Only. That's coming out soon. And then Rascal Flatts came out with another single off their Fuel Duets album, and that is with Kelly Clarkson this time. It's called I'm Moving On from their classic hit. It's decent, but it's a slow song. Originally a slow song, so I don't have it as far up there. East Coast by Morgan Wade. I was a huge Morgan Wade fan when she had that first song that came out a couple years ago. I'm not even figuring out what that it was, but ever since then, her music has done absolutely nothing for me. And I thought this song, I always go into it thinking it's going to be that next song for her, but not for me this time. Next up, Dierks Bentley had a new song called Cold Beer Can with Steven Wilson Jr. Know nothing about Steven Wilson Jr., but they both sound great. I'm really liking this new sound from Dierks Bentley. Can't wait for a new album. He's an artist that I never really, I liked his music. It's just I never really went to, go click on it or actually want to go listen to it. I've listened to it on the radio, but after seeing him live, he was one of those artists that completely changed my mind. I've become a fan of his after that. Next up, Restless Road came out with a song called Going Out Like That. It's decent. It's definitely not one of their top songs. The song of the week that really took mainstream media would be Chappell Roan coming out with this country song called The Giver. She's done a lot of interviews with Spotify and Apple throughout the week talking about how she grew up in Missouri, grew up on Christian country music, and she drives around West Hollywood listening to Jason Aldean and Alan Jackson, and people went up in arms, and all of her fans went up in arms because she said Jason Aldean's name. So ridiculous. But it's actually a really good song. And the one thing that really stuck out from the interview that she had with Kaylee Bannon from Apple Music's Today Country is that she actually went to Nashville to record this and hired Nashville musicians, Nashville background singers to do this. Like she said, if she was going to do a country song, she wanted to do it in the world of country. And I think that's the main thing that people had against Beyonce that are in the country music industry. She recorded this album completely outside of Nashville, didn't really care about Nashville, didn't care about the community of country music. And that's a lot of what Chappell Roan talks about, how she really is excited to see. And it's not like she's going to make a country album. She said that she's not going to. It's just she wanted to kind of tie into her childhood a little bit. And she talked about a little bit how there's community in country music, and that's what really draws her to the world of country music. She said she heard so many things about what backstage is like at CMA Awards and how there's a sense of community. There's a sense of artists actually going up and being friendly. And she's like, it's going to be completely different than what she's used to seeing at the VMAs or any of those other award shows, and just how there's actually a sense of community in country music. It really draws her to it. She's not necessarily changing over to country music. She just wanted to give this song a chance, and it's called The Giver. It's actually a really good song. I haven't heard this many fiddles and banjos in a country song, and in a song in general in years. She really did it well. Go check that one out. I can't say more about it. Just go check that one out. Next up, Thomas Rhett and Adam Dolik came out with a song called Bar Named Jesus. It's good. Adam Dolik has a really 4 or 5 really good songs that really are catchy. So go check that out. That's all I have for new music. Media Base chart, number 5 this week, Dylan Scott. This Town's Been Good to Me. Number 4, Cody Johnson and Carrie Underwood with I'm Gonna Love You. And then Jordan Javis at number 3, I Ain't Saying. Number 2, Low Cash, Hometown Home. And then last, number 1 of this week is Jelly Roll Liar. That's all we have this week. Again, go check out the Pro Series this past week with Jared. It was 182. Great episode. If you want to listen to, he is from Pittsburgh. A creator. He helps people create more stuff, content, everything. He has his clothing line. He has so many things. So go check that episode out. It was really fun to interview with him, and he's continuing to put more and more videos out of that podcast, which I really appreciate. But it was such a great conversation. So go check that out. But other than that, stay tuned to next week, and hope you have a great week.